What's up, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the Well Man's Podcast. My name is Brian Brosey. I'm joined by my friend and co-host, Keone Tita. Keone, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Let's talk about one of my favorite topics, and that is cannabinoids, or how about the endocannabinoid system? And that is a system in the body of all mammals, believe it or not. And guess what, Brian? That system has only been discovered since 1992.
Wow.
1992.
Almost, the system's as old as I am, almost.
Right. So think about this. This is fascinating because we have an endocannabinoid system. Basically, this is a system that of receptors throughout the body. It's a system of connected ligands, receptors, and enzymes throughout the whole body. So you're talking about every tissue in your body has something to do with this endocannabinoid system. And we only discovered it since 1992.
Wow.
Before, we didn't know it existed. So that's fascinating because that's telling me that we evolved. This is what it's telling me. We evolved with cannabinoids. And where do cannabinoids come from? Well, they come from two sources, but one is from marijuana, right? One is from marijuana. So it makes you wonder, like, what the hell were our ancient ancestors doing? They were getting high as hell on the plains of Africa or wherever, this plant has been with us forever. And we have evolved with it so that we have a cannabinoid system in our body. Mm-hmm. And our body actually makes endogenous cannabinoids also on top of it. Wow. And I'm going to say a lot of things that will probably are theoretical, but this is just my thinking. I think this is crazy, but I think a lot of illness in our bodies, right, is because we as humans are subclinically or deficient in getting our dose of cannabinoids because we've made marijuana illegal. We no longer consume hemp products, which contain cannabinoids. These come from the same plants. There are spices that contain some cannabinoids, but we don't get a whole lot of these in our diet anymore. And it's very interesting now that CBD is legal in 50 states. CBD is a little bit different. It's cannabidiol, right? That's different. There's another cannabinoid called THC. That's the one that's found in high amounts of marijuana. But CBD without the THC is legal. And so I think with the use of CBD, what we're starting to see, especially since this system, the endocannabinoid system, it is considered by most the body's master regulator system. It's on every organ, the receptors. So with the CBD, if we are hitting these receptors, what are the health benefits of it? And so people go, well, what do you mean? Like, what's actually going on here? Well, CBD actually acts like an optimizer for bodily function. But specifically, the systems that I see it help the most with, it helps with sleep, it helps with eating, it helps with mood, and definitely metabolism. Wow. But I think it's absolutely fascinating. And I think we're doing a service for people's health now that, at least in the United States, that CBD is legal in all 50 states, and that we also have marijuana becoming legalized also in some states. I don't know how many states are legal now for recreational use, but certainly with medical marijuana, I think we have close to like 25 of our states that legalize medical marijuana and probably like 10 to 15 that legalize recreational marijuana now.
I think that's about right. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. But anyway, I think over time it's going to become, I think it's just going to be a federal law where it's legal throughout the US. And I think it's going to be a good thing for our health based on this endocannabinoid system, which has just been found out.
So do we see a lot of evidence within history of people using their endocannabinoid system essentially, or like it being a part of society, whether consuming hemp, like you mentioned, or anything like that?
Well, what we see is that it's been used throughout history in many cultures, throughout ancient history in many cultures. The plant originally comes from, let me back up. There's a number of strains, right? There's just so people know, there's industrial hemp, which is a strain. It all comes from Cannabis sativa. Okay. But industrial hemp is a strain that has kind of been, hybridized to get rid of the THC. All right. So it's very low amount of THC. I think it's 0.3% or less of THC in industrial hemp. All right. But it still comes from the same plant. So there's cannabis sativa, right? Regular. That's not the industrial hemp that has anywhere from 3% to 20% THC. There's Cannabis Indica, another strain that same thing. It can range from anywhere from 3% to 20% of THC. Now, keep in mind, all these plants have the other cannabinoids in there with them. And then there's
many cannabinoids.
Oh yeah, there's many. There's I think up to like 30, 35 cannabinoid, different types of chemicals within these plants that affect our endocannabinoid system.
Okay. And THC and CBD are like the top of the pyramid and they branch from there, or they're just one of many?
They're just one of, okay. So THC is one type of cannabinoid.
Okay.
All right. But it's the one that gives you the brain effects, right? Where you could maybe get slightly,
psychoactive.
Yeah. You get some hallucinations where time seems to stop. That's probably the THC effects.
Maybe a giggle.
Yeah, yeah, and maybe a lot of hunger too, right? After you go through the high, but so that's THC, and the other ones there's the cannabidiol. That's one. There's a number of CBD, but they have more body effects, unlike THC, which has more brain effects. So when you take a CBD supplement, you're not likely, and I'm saying not likely, to have any brain effects, although I've seen it happen in a number of my patients where they actually did have brain effects from the CBD.
Yeah. But you definitely have to shop your correct sources for a CBD supplement.
Right. And
I know it's a big thing.
Right. And also, our body actually makes a couple endogenous, what we call cannabinoid chemicals, right? One of them is my favorite. It's called anandamide.
Okay.
And anandamide, we've talked about this before. I don't know if you remember, but we talked about cocoa before.
Okay, yeah.
So anandamide is actually found in cocoa, but our body makes it also. And anandamide I think in Hindu means the bliss chemical. And our body actually makes that. Okay. So endogenously. And what else? There's another chemical that doesn't get a lot of.
And these are all cannabinoids that we're going through. Is that correct?
Yeah. These are all cannabinoids. So and I'm talking about the endogenous endocannabinoids. Basically, you can think of them. So anandamide is one, and then there's another chemical that's 2-arachidonyl glycerol, 2-AG is the acronym for that. That is also another endogenous endocannabinoid. So if you're a research buff and you want to type in anandamide, you can see some pretty good studies on it. And then the same thing with this 2-AG, I'm going to spell it, 2-ARACHIDONOYL, glycerol, 2-AG. Anyway, those are endogenous ones. Our bodies make those.
So do you know when those two are released? Are they specifically for kind of gating pain or something like that? Is there a reason these two are endogenous that we know of?
They're released for a number of reasons, right? They're released to help regulate sleep. They're released to help regulate mood. I mean, think about anandamide being the bliss chemical. It's kind of a feel-good chemical. Part of the reason we probably give chocolate or cocoa on Valentine's Day kind of gives us a feel-good thing. It's probably due to that anandamide as well as some other chemicals in cocoa. But this is actually secreted by our body makes this. So they work as a way to optimize the body function, and specifics are sleep, eating, appetite, mood, and metabolism. So these are natural signaling molecules. Think of them as signaling molecules in the body
that are going to go to this endocannabinoid, or throughout this system,
Right, this system. And the system is made up of these chemicals. The whole system is made up of those chemicals and receptors and different proteins. Like there's certain proteins that help upregulate the system. There's certain proteins that help degrade these chemicals, right?
Okay.
So they're not hanging around too long. So it's the whole system, which is pervasive throughout the body.
Okay.
All right. So there's enzymes responsible for degrading and downregulating these endocannabinoids. There's enzymes responsible for synthesizing these endocannabinoids. Okay.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And there's receptors in the body, part of the system. There's called a CB1 receptor, CB2 receptor. These receptors are, some of them are more abundant on different tissues. CB2, I think CB2 tends to be more on like skin, tonsils, like the thymus, the spleen. Oh, this is fascinating to me too. So when I'm talking about, that I think that we may be deficient in cannabinoids, it's really fascinating to me. I'd love to see a study. As we get older, what happens is our thymus kind of shrinks, kind of shrivels up. Science really doesn't know why that happens. They just think, oh, well, you're just getting older. But I would bet, because of these CB2 receptors on there, I'll bet if we had more of an influx of cannabinoids, our thymus gland would be around longer. What does the thymus gland do? Thymus gland is about supporting immune system function. So wouldn't that be interesting?
Yeah,
like if you strengthen your immune function by getting more of these cannabinoid compounds in our body. Anyway, the CB2s are found in spleen, bones, white blood cells. So think about this, CB2 and white blood cells. What if you could upregulate the white blood cells by taking these cannabinoid compounds, or regulating them endogenously, and upregulating your white blood cells? What kind of effect do you think that have on cancer? And do we see science for that, right?
Right.
And yeah, we do. We see a lot of studies on CBD, these cannabinoids, and THC for helping fight cancer, at least in the Petri dish we do, and animal studies. And then you can get online anywhere and you see all these anecdotal stories of people so-called curing their cancer. And I'm not going to go that far because I just don't think we have science on it, but curing their cancer with these high concentrations of, CBD oils and marijuana oils with THC. And here we have, at least in theory, a mechanism of how it may work.
Am I going to get the CB1 and the CB2? Well, these are receptors. Okay. So each one of those cannabinoids can go to these specific receptors, is what we're saying.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
And I'm not sure what chemicals go to which.
Gotcha.
I mean, I'm sure that research will figure that out. And there's probably a lot more of these receptors, different types, besides CB1, CB2. But CB1 is found mostly in sperm, ovaries, the pituitary. It's found in muscle. It's found in the placenta. It's found in the thyroid gland. I mean, why the heck do we have these receptors all over our body? It begs the question. And are we deficient? I think, yeah, we are. I think we are. And I see the effects when I give CBD oil to my patients, what it does to them. And then also I can speak from personal experience what it's done for me. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that in a little bit. Okay.
Are there clinical levels that anyone has kind of identified as, this is a healthy level of CB, I guess, regulation, or different levels of these cannabinoids?
I guess
people can be deficient in them. Has there been an identified?
I don't think there's been an identified level, so to speak, that when you're deficient or not. But my whole thinking is, if you have these receptors throughout your body and they're not being stimulated, that's telling me that your body may be weakened by not stimulating these receptors that are there. Okay. Right? Okay. And you can stimulate them, from endogenous cannabinoids that we make, the feel-good chemicals, but also you can stimulate them from the phytocannabinoids, so phytoplant cannabinoids, which are found in well beyond just hemp and marijuana, right? So we know phytocannabinoids are found in cocoa. We just talked about Anand Amide. Guess where else they're found? They're found in clove. They're found in clove bud, right? That spice. They're found in pepper. Good old black pepper has some in it. You're probably not going to get high off that, but it has them in there enough to stimulate these receptors. Hops is an herb that's used to make beer. They have a little bit in there. Echinacea, green tea even has some chemicals that act like phytocannabinoids. Panax ginseng, the really expensive black truffles, those are known to have them in there. rosemary has it, lavender, oregano. It's interesting that a lot of these are spices, right? So
Okay.
think about how much we use. We did a spice podcast, and we were talking, me and you were talking about, yeah, people should start using more spices in their cooking, just for the health benefits. Well, here's another benefit using these phytocannabinoids.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay. So what we're saying is there's mammals all throughout the world have this endocannabinoid system, and we see a variety of these cannabinoids in a variety of different plants, herbs, and things naturally growing. And we have a bajillion of these receptors all over various parts of our body. And due to that, it's just intriguing to you as what is this endocannabinoid system kind of floating around for and about? And that's
right.
Okay.
Right. And so this is what science says about it. It says the endocannabinoid system is the primary homeostatic regulatory system in the body. That's crazy. The primary homeostatic regulatory system in the body.
It is crazy.
That is crazy. And think about it, we haven't been using it. We have not been using it.
Yeah.
You know, really, we don't that much in our diet. And the best sources are from CBD, hemp oil, or hemp, you know, foods derived from hemp and marijuana, but also spices. And they're, you know, the spices are pretty specific. So most, you know, maybe most Americans, the main spice they use, I would say, is probably salt and sugar. And then after that, it's pepper, which has a little bit in there. But you brought up all mammals have this endocannabinoid system. It's not just mammals, birds and fish have it too. So we're talking about our ancient ancestors way beyond hominids. We're talking about, so what is going on here?
Yeah. Okay. I'm on board now.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. And so I think, you know, we really need to it's great that it's all legalization is happening, which means more research is going to happen.
Right.
And honestly, Brian, I actually think that this could possibly mean that health is going to improve of many people. It's going to help with depression, anxiety. We have already started seeing that people who use CBD oil don't need their pain medications anymore. They seem not to be depressed or anxious anymore. They certainly sleep better. I could definitely talk about that in a second. They just generally overall feel better.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's pretty amazing what this is. And what's going on and what this system does for our body. But let's go through that. So let's go through the best known functions. All right. And we'll talk about the nervous system first. So the nervous system, I think, tends to be the primary site for the endocannabinoid activity. So that's where a lot of the stuff happens, right? And we see a lot of CB1 receptors in the nervous system. And what we find is they inhibit the release of glutamate and GABA. GABA is a inhibitory neurotransmitter. It kind of clears the noise out in the brain. That means that, hey, it may help with sleep. We see that these CB1 receptors play a role in memory formation and learning. Well, what does that mean? Would that help people with dementia and possibly Alzheimer's? We're starting to see anecdotal stories about that. It promotes nervous tissue formation in the hippocampus. The hippocampus is the primary center in the brain for creating memories. So that's fascinating to me. It regulates neuronal activity. It plays a huge role in the brain's response to trauma and inflammation. Can CBD be great for PTSD? Yes, we see some anecdotal stuff for that. And by far, it's a great anti-inflammatory herb. I've told you over and over again in the podcast, we've talked about curcumin as being a great anti-inflammatory herb. But, you know, this one may take the place of it. You know, so it modulates pain signal, has natural analgesic effects, and its effects are on the CNS, the central nervous system. So that's really cool with the CB1 receptors and the CB2 receptors in the nervous system. They tend to be more of they act more on the sympathetic nervous system, but they're more in the peripheral nervous system. So you're talking about stimulating both of these through using cannabinoids to help with pain. And then I think another really big area is in the immune system with the immune health. So we see these receptors in the thymus, in the spleen, the tonsils, in the bone marrow. We see them. They upregulate the immune system, or at least optimize it. We see with T and B lymphocyte function, macrophages, mast cells, neutrophils, natural killer cells. These are the killer cells that go after cancer. They regulate cytokine production. These are your chemical messengers in the body. They give you a healthy immune response, inflammatory response. They help with infections. This is all research stuff that they're finding with this system. We see throughout the digestive system that it plays a huge role in the gut-brain immune axis. So we see that it regulates gut immunity. Most of your immune system resides in your gut. It modulates, again, metabolic signaling molecules in there, modulates inflammation in the gut. It regulates gut motility. This may be great for somebody with IBS, and lo and behold, we see some stuff where for IBS, CBD oil seems to help with that. I get anybody who's ever took marijuana or smoked marijuana or ingested marijuana definitely knows that it has an effect on the appetite and metabolism, right? So if you take, so for a couple of things, we know if you take too much, you can get nauseous and throw up. If you take just the right amount, you can get extremely hungry. It will upregulate your appetite, make you eat. It definitely messes with your metabolism, increases food-seeking behavior, enhances the sense of smell. In fact, it enhances your sense, all your senses. It's crazy. Like if you have a little bit of this CBD and or especially the marijuana, I mean, your senses are heightened. I mean, it's kind of crazy. If you like, you can hear at least for me, I've heard, I could be in a crowded room and everybody's talking. And for me, I feel like I can hear everybody's conversation and repeat back everything they're saying. Like I can discern everybody's conversation. And that's more the THC playing in effect, but
got a lot of high FBI agents out there listening to the conversations in crowded bars.
It's like that Goldilocks. If you get the right amount, I mean, it's crazy how it enhances your senses. Anyway, it regulates energy balance. We know the effects on stress and mood. It modulates the release of other neurochemicals like dopamine, norepinephrine, serotonin, stress hormone, cortisol. It's great. It helps with stress like you would not believe, like it much better than Xanax would. So anybody who has a fear of flying or anything like that, a little bit of CBD could just help you sail right through that, no problem at all. Or where they're having like stress around test taking or something like that, it can help with that. It can help with some focus too.
Yeah.
It can play a role in helping with traumatic events that's happened in your past. It seems to help people get over those quicker and cope with them better, but again, it's throughout the system. We see it in bones. It helps with fertility, skin health, arterial, respiratory health, and it helps regulate circadian rhythms. These are just a few of the areas and a few of the things that are being researched out there on CBD, on the cannabinoids in the cannabinoid system. But it's just fascinating to me about this system and how young it is as far as we've just discovered it. Just makes me think what else we're going to discover about the human body soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Keone, interesting question about how do they go about discovering like the ECS, this endocannabinoid system? Do they find a chemical substance and then they don't know what that substance is and slowly trace it back all the way to develop this system? Is that generally how this works? And
yeah, it's probably like that, or they look at these chemicals found in these plants, or they take some of these endogenous chemicals and see how they what receptors they hook on, why they hook on these receptors, and then what are the physiological effects after that happens.
Okay.
And then they're also doing it clinically, right? They'll give, you can think about giving a little in animal studies. They do it in Petri dish studies, and then when in regular human studies, they'll give this stuff and then see what the effects are.
Yeah. The more research is definitely the benefit of the legalization.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It definitely is, because if it's illegal, you can't get the research done, and you just don't find out a lot about it. So I think here in the U.S. we've opened the floodgates for the research, which we all should be thankful for, and I think it's just going to help us so much with our health. So anyway, that's a little bit about the endocannabinoid system, and we talked about where you can find some of these phytocannabinoids and think about ingesting some of these to at least I like to think, up-regulating or helping your endocannabinoid system, some of those foods and spices that we mentioned. But a lot of people come to my clinic looking for CBD oil. Right now, I practice in North Carolina, and marijuana in itself is not legal here. I hope that will change soon. But hemp oil is, and CBD oil is too. So let's just go into that a little bit and talk about hemp oil, hemp as a food, and the different strains of hemp, so to speak, or marijuana. So hemp oil is typically derived from industrial hemp. All right. So, and hemp is, it's marijuana, it's cannabis sativa, but it's a strain that has basically been hybridized to take out all the THC. So you have less than 0.03% THC in industrial hemp. And industrial hemp as a crop is one of the best plants for a number of things. And it's really a shame that it's been made illegal, because it's a very, very green plant. It's very, very good for our environment if we would just use it, because you can make a number of products out of hemp, industrial hemp. So the fibers can be made into rope. You can make it into clothing.
I've got a duffel bag and there's no holes, and I think it's like antimicrobial because of the properties of the hemp.
Yeah, probably so. Probably so.
It doesn't have a single tear in it, and I've had it for multiple years. Very strong.
Right. So you can make number of textiles out of clothing. You can make plastics, biodegradable plastics. I mean, that's a need for the planet, right?
Yeah.
Out of hemp. You can make paint out of it, insulation. You can make a biofuel out of it. It's a very, very fast growing plant. And then you can even make, it's not only can be used for animal feed, but also it's a good food source for humans too. So industrial hemp. So if you go into a health food store, you'll see like hemp seeds or hemp cereal, that type of thing. You could see it there. And it's as a food for humans, it's very high in fiber. As a plant food, it's very high in protein. And it's also a very good source of plant forms of omega-3s, which are, really good fats. So industrial hemp is coming back, and really, if I was a farmer or wanted to get into an agricultural product or crop, this would be it. It's very fast growing. It's easy to grow. It can be used for a number of products. Right. But and then of course from industrial hemp you can get your CBD oil or hemp oil, right? And you can make the hemp oil from the seeds, the stalks, the stems, all that. All of it has CBD oil in it. And so you make the oil from that. So that's kind of the stuff I sell in my clinic is hemp oil or CBD oil. It's derived from industrial hemp.
Okay. And so what type of process do you go through kind of checking the source of that? I'm sure you have a reputable company that you like.
So yes, with the companies that I use a number of companies, but and everybody is kind of on the CBD oil train right now. So you don't really know exactly what you're getting, but I want to make sure that I know the milligram dose of the CBD that I'm getting within the per cap of the hemp oil or CBD oil. I want to make sure that it is organic. I want to make sure that it's not sprayed, and I want to make sure that it's that the oils are extracted in a way that doesn't add other chemicals to it. All right. Okay. So that's my checklist for getting a good hemp oil product. And we use a number of. There's a product that I really like. Actually, the products that I really like, most of the hemp that I really like is coming out of Europe. But a lot of them are being they're suppliers for American companies, so a lot of American companies are using them. But actually, in North Carolina now, there's some vendors that are growing hemp here. I don't have experience with them, and I just don't know much about them. Yeah. They make good products, but I think you want to get an idea of how much of the CBD you're getting in there. And a lot of people are just growing the hemp and just extracting it and putting it in capsules and not really telling much about it, right. Like how much is in there. It's not really standardized.
Mm-hmm. If I take CBD, am I going to P positive for marijuana?
No.
All right.
No, you won't. You can take CBD and you don't have to worry about a drug test. All right. Especially if it's derived from industrial hemp, you don't have to worry about it. It's undetectable on tests like that, the THC, because it's so low. So you wouldn't have to worry about that. I like using the whole plant. So I like using a whole hemp oil blend, right? So it's that you extract it from the hemp. So I like the synergism of the whole plant is what I'm saying. So you want all the chemicals from that plant working together. So I like hemp oil as opposed to, oh, this is just CBD oil. Now, a lot of places that say, oh, this is CBD oil is just really hemp oil. Okay. So, but I just tell people, like, make sure that they're not isolating one chemical over another. Like, get hemp oil.
Gotcha.
And then see if you can get it standardized, or how much they can tell you how much CBD is in there.
And what are you doing with the oil? You cook with it, you put it on your skin topically, you ingest it?
Well, you can do both. So it will get absorbed through the skin. I like ingesting it for sore muscles and aches and pains. You can get like a CBD oil balm, and put it on your skin. It will get in there and it will help. But I've had the best experience with ingesting it. Okay. Yeah. And so a lot of times things that I use, it usually comes in a tincture, or it has it's in a gel cap. Sometimes it can be in a paste, things like that. Okay. But right now I think the gel caps are the easiest to use. So industrial hemp, that is cannabis sativa. It's coming from that plant, but it's just a different hybridized form of it. And then you have cannabis sativa, the regular, it's a strain of marijuana plant, right? And this is really interesting for people to know if they don't know a lot about this, but I've had experience with ingesting cannabis sativa in the form of cookies, in form of the oil. And for me, and a lot of people can relate to this, the sativa plant, whatever the chemical makeup is of these cannabinoids, it makes me extremely anxious. I mean, it could put me in borderline panic attack. Now, a lot of it has to do with dosing. All right. So you just have to ease into the dose. But typically, I can do only 5 milligrams of cannabis sativa, and I'm like borderline anxious.
Yeah. And I know it's much different smoking versus ingesting. I know when you ingest it, it becomes a completely different substance that's way more psychoactive.
It can't, and the way I think about it is, if you're going to ingest it, you're and you ingest too much, you're kind of in for a longer ride than smoking. So with smoking it, you kind of can titrate your dose up easier. I don't smoke. I just don't like inhaling anything to my lungs. So if I ingest it, I eat it. But you just have to make sure you know how much is in there and go up. So if you've never had it before, I just tell people to don't go much more above 5 milligrams of THC. If you're consuming the psychoactive forms of the plant, like cannabis sativa. Now, cannabis sativa, I know a lot of people, it can make them very anxious. I know other people where it doesn't affect them. They get a good high or whatever, and they feel like relaxed, and they're having a good time and everything. The strain that I really like is Cannabis Indica, and because what it does, you take that, man, it just puts me right to sleep. And it's great for sleep, but again, and the THC plays a role in that, but I actually like the CBD for sleep, and you don't get the brain effects that you would get from the Cannabis Indica or the Cannabis Sativa.
If I'm taking CBD to help with my sleep, am I taking it at a certain time before I go to bed, or just
an hour before bed?
Okay.
I would take before bed, take it, and it will help you with sleep there. And I would take 5 milligrams.
Have you ever felt groggy in the morning or anything like that?
Initially, because what it does is it makes me sleep like I've been sleeping like back in my teenage years. You remember those days where you could sleep, you go to bed
at 10,
at 10 and wake up at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and you're like, sometimes I get sleep like that. And so you get up and you're like, a little bit groggy, but it's really a restful sleep.
Right. Okay.
And so for me, it's been great for me to help sleep. And the thing about, I guess the next question would be, well, all right, so it's helping you with sleep, but is it habit forming? And I would say no. It's not one of these things where you're going to be addicted to it and then have withdrawal from it. It's like
CBD
chocolate
or
CBD. CBD. I would say overall, but definitely with CBD.
Yeah, I would agree.
You do see people who are just chronic marijuana users who I just, and then that speaks to, okay, what's going on there? Are they addicted to it or not? But you don't,
burger users.
Well, yeah, but yeah, exactly. But if you don't have, what I haven't seen is people who no longer have the marijuana. They've been doing it every day for however long, and then they stop doing it. I just haven't seen withdrawal effects like you
Right.
may see with coffee, where
Yeah.
you get these rebound headaches.
Physical withdrawal effects.
Right. So I go to the place. Well, it may be addictive, or maybe not. I mean, yeah, I guess if it's helping you sleep, you may think, well, damn, I need that to help me sleep, and there may be some sort of placebo, effect or psychological effect where you think you need it to help you sleep.
Right.
But I haven't really seen that as the case with me. Like, it almost seems like to me I can use it, sleep really well. We're talking about CBD now, not THC, but the CBD, I can use it, sleep really well. And I don't feel like I need it. It almost this is kind of what it speaks to. It seems like it regulates my circadian rhythm to where, okay, now I'm adjusted. It's like a reset for me. Now I'm adjusted. Now I can sleep better again, and I don't need it. But
so, are you taking it daily, or once or twice a week? Or
I right now I'm taking it like 3 times a week.
3?
2 to 3 times a week.
Okay.
Yeah, 2 to 3 times a week. I take it, and it's great. I mean, it just seems to just help regulate a number of things for me. That just helps me feel really good. So I consider it, one of these, it's one of my favorite herbs. I mean, I have that along with cocoa and curcumin and stuff, especially with the health benefits. But it's pretty incredible. Anyway, there is another form of cannabis out there called Cannabis ruderalis, and that is that plant. I think it's native to Europe, whereas the other two, the sativa and indica, are more native to like Afghanistan or the Far East. But this one also has THC in it, but this strain of cannabis has a lower amount of THC. All of these plants have been used in herbal medicine throughout history. They've all had.
Now, I've seen studies on specifically THC having negative effects on REM sleep specifically. Mm-hmm. Have you seen anything in regards to that with CBD, or just what they've found to study so far? I know it's limited out there, and that's like we were mentioning.
I don't know. I'm not familiar with the negative studies on that. I can speak from personal experience that, the CBD puts me to sleep just as well as taking the cannabis with the THC in it. Okay. The THC definitely, for me, has significant brain effects to the point where, I can get slight hallucinations from it. So you've seen this stuff, right? You take cannabis.
I have never seen this stuff.
Well, you've heard you've heard the stories, like somebody who's taken too much cannabis or marijuana, and the trees start talking to them and have happy faces and start.
I know.
I've seen that happen. All right. I was just listening to a story about my father when he's back in his younger days. He took his friend gave him some marijuana, and he was at this wedding party, and he was getting all anxious. He had to go walk outside, and there's this big ballroom, and he's like, Keone and I ended up in a chandelier 20 feet above the ground. It's like stuff like that, and I think if you get to a point like that, you're taking too much. But I just tell people, like, the dose is going to be different for everybody. So start low and then titrate up with both CBD. And if you're using marijuana, start low and titrate up. A lot of if you go to California or Washington State, a lot of the candies out there that have THC in it are probably not going to have much more than, some of them will have 10 milligrams of THC, but a lot of them have like 2.5 to 5 milligrams of THC in the candies and stuff. You really don't want to go above more than one candy if you're not used to it. You just don't, If I do 10 to 15 milligrams, I'll probably, of indica, I'll be asleep the whole weekend. It'll put me to sleep.
We'll never get a podcast done.
Right. We'll never get a podcast. And if I did that much of sativa, I'd be,
we'd have so many podcasts done.
I would have to do it to keep my mind off. Oh my God, what's happening to me? I'm, going to panic attack and stuff. But, it's really, I consider it, it is a medicinal plant. So as a medicinal plant, there's a beneficial range of using it. And then I would consider more of a toxic range of using it. Right. So you can go overboard quite easily, with it. the thing I like about it is compared to alcohol, I mean, for the most part, besides the anxiety that some people may have, I mean, it just makes people chill out. It doesn't cause a change in personality or anything like alcohol. I don't know if you've ever seen this. I used to bartend, and back in my college days, and you'd see certain people come in, they get drunk and their whole personality change. Either they become belligerent or they become the happiest people on the planet, and you just never knew what you're getting.
Yeah.
And I agree with the lobbyists lobbying for marijuana. I mean, I consider alcohol a much more dangerous thing than cannabis.
Yeah.
Even though I will say this, even though if I've taken too much marijuana, I certainly I wouldn't want myself behind the wheel. I just wouldn't.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, you definitely want to be safe, because it does have brain effects.
Yeah.
Not to mention it slows down time. I mean, that's another neat thing about it, right? It's like It seems like time just slows down. Big time.
Do you know of any studies just in regards to vaping, since we're kind of on this topic now, Keone, as far as vaping being healthier, or just what you think in regards to that? I know in general, we don't really support smoking anything.
Yeah. I don't really support inhaling that stuff. I don't have any experience with vaping. I mean, I guess with vaping, you can adjust your dosage of what you're getting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always concerned about what other chemicals are in there and other preservatives and things like that. And I don't know much about it to speak to it. I'll tell you that it's an easily usable form, right?
Mm-hmm.
It can be very convenient. But I just haven't used it. I just rather eat it. And here's another interesting thing. Another reason why I could rather consume it if I was going to, help with sleep. There are a number of things that can enhance the absorption or enhance the effects of your marijuana high, right? Mm-hmm. So for example, a lot of reasons why it's combined with chocolate is because those two potentiate each other. So you get the feel-good effects of cocoa, and then you get the feel-good effects of THC. So that's why a lot of times it's combined together. And there's even some stories of I don't know anything about this, but mango, the fruit mango, doing mango with marijuana seems to like bring the high on faster and maybe longer. I mean, so certain foods like enhance.
I've heard the same thing about soy lecithin being with edibles and making.
Yeah, probably so, because the fatty molecule, it can enhance the absorption, right? So yeah. So fat will, when you eat fat, your body will absorb it pretty quickly. And the THC cannabinoids are fatty soluble molecules. So they'll go right into your body quickly that way. That may be the other reason why cocoa, the fat in cocoa, it seems to help. But to me, it's a magical plant, and
many, it is a magical plant, I can assure you.
It's definitely a magical plant. I think it has a far-reaching health benefits, and I think it helps keep our endocannabinoid system healthy.
Yeah, that's really interesting. This week specifically, Keone, I don't know if you're familiar with the Joe Rogan podcast. He had on two different people who were debating, and he titled the episode "The Pot Debate." And one guy wrote an entire book about how pot is not a medicine, and just a variety of different studies on how it can increase violence and da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
He debated a physician in Canada who used it for psychiatric patients, and it was just a very interesting topic. And then the end of it was, basically, do you think cannabis is a medicine? And you just kind of gave your thought right there. So that's great.
Yeah.
Timely.
Yep. Yeah. And since we've talked about this, the other podcast I want to do is I want to, and I don't have experience. I don't have personal experience with this, but I do think we ought to do a podcast on psychedelics, because I think this is a good lead in on that. So we're talking about things like psilocybin, LSD, some of the natural hallucinogens and stuff like that, which are get a lot of the floodgates have kind of opened up on the research there. And you're seeing some really, really neat things happening for people, especially in the psycho-emotional realm.
Yeah.
Where people have psychiatric disorders, where these things really seem to be helping them.
Yeah.
So a lot of my friends have taken trips down to South America, or actually I've just had a friend the other day, went to Atlanta of all places to do their ayahuasca.
Oh, wow.
And so we should talk about that. It's really fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's my spiel on hemp oil and marijuana, and I think there's going to be a lot more to be said about it. But I just want to keep people a primer on it.
Yeah, that was great. And just remember, Jeff Sessions, Attorney General of the United States, good people do not smoke marijuana. We'll be with you next week.
No, good people do smoke marijuana. Yeah, I'm glad we got rid of him, because actually I think if everybody took a little bit of marijuana or CBD oil, this world would be a much, much better place. I just can't imagine a war starting when everybody's high. You know, everybody be, oh, you know, come on, let's eat, let's party.
Yeah, there's definitely no World War I. That happening between the trenches.
That's exactly right.
All right. Well, thank you, Keone. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and we will talk with you next week.
All right. Take care, everybody. Bye.